Gdje god hoćeš. Sjeda. Izmiješ se govorim sa ovim.
Pa me isto dešava, uzem nekog koji priča na lošem srpskom i onda mu odgovorim na isto tako lošem srpskom.
Ne, dobro je.
Kako misliš? Imaš jedan vokal ili ovo sve?
Jedan vokal.
Mislite, water. Water for life. Treba da imam neki papir, nešto čudno. Nek samo da uzmem.
All right, what will you ask it again? How will you ask it? I will just introduce you and then ask it. Okay. Dobroveče svima. Hvala što ste došli na projekciju filma Plavo Srce. Ovaj događaj je u okviru kampanje Spasimo plavo srce Evrope, odnosno Save the Blue Heart of Europe. Ja ću sada vas pozdraviti samo na našem jeziku, a razgovor ćemo nastaviti na engleskom. Takođe, moći ćete da postavite pitanja slobodno na srpsko-hrvatskom, koji god jezik koji bih ja mogla da razumem da mogu da prevedem gostima. Ja sam Iva Marković, mnogi od vas me ovde poznaju iz inicijative Pravo na vodu, međutim večeras pričam iz perspektive kampanje Save the Blue Heart of Europe i ovaj film koji ste gledali je samo jedan segment koji bi trebalo da informiše, da podstakne na razmišljanje i da na neki način probudi Balkan, da se bore protiv takvog načina eksploatisanja vode kao što su hidroelektrane. Welcome everyone. Thank you for staying for the panel after this wonderful movie from the Serbian campaign Right to Water. But tonight I'm also from campaign Save the Blue Heart of Europe. The movie that you just saw is only one part of this large, very important campaign. And tonight we'll have guests here who are intertwined and connected with producing this movie that serves to inform on one hand, on another to raise emotional and human response for exploitation of nature in such a way as dams. Of them have very important things to say tonight. I will ask them to be really brief, please, under 5 minutes, so we can have questions from the audience as well. I will start with the person who has maybe the most, the best view or overview of the movie and the life of the movie outside of just the production of this. How did Ella is here tonight with us? She's from Patagonia. She's in charge of environmental advocacy for entire Europe, actually, in environmental initiatives that Patagonia supports. And Patagonia is also one of the producers of the movie. She's originally from Slovenia. She can also understand your questions, probably. So, Michaela, how did the movie change the perspective on hydropower plants in Balkans? What's the life of the movie outside of just screening?
Hvala. Dobro večer. Ja sam Slovenka, ali moj srpski nije dovoljno dobar, tako da ću nastaviti u engleskom, izvinjavam se. Thanks for inviting us. It's been actually now almost a year since we launched the film, on the top of the many years of campaigning for that issue. And even I'm from Slovenia. And when I first started to look at the region 4 years ago, I had no idea about these red dots on the map. And then I met Uli and Igor and Gabriel and a lot of great people. And when I went back to our founder at Patagonia and I said, there is 3,000 dams going to be built, I think we should do something about it. He called me crazy and then said, go for it. So the next thing was then to find a director who would produce a film like that in a, you can agree with me, a pretty complex region with a lot of really heartbreaking, but also very inspiring stories. So to pick these three was really hard work. And I really want to give a lot of respect to everyone else who is doing great work in the region, Chuta and Stara Planina and people from Bulgaria that are also here today. It's been such a journey for us also in these couple of years to meet all of you and to see what you're doing. And we really salute you in dedicating your life to protecting the resources in the countries where this is not an everyday business. So when we finalized the film, we started the screening around the world. So the film has been now seen in more than 500 locations across the world. We named the whole campaign based on the Save the Blue Heart of Europe effort, the Damn Truth campaign. And whenever we screen this, whether it's in Japan, in US, UK, France, doesn't matter, the response is very consistent. The public first would say, wow, we had no idea how beautiful the region is. So I want to say that to all of you, that you have something so special here that it's really worth fighting for. The second response is, wow, we had no idea that power, and that shouldn't be part of the renewable mix of the future anymore. And the third part is then, how can we help? So there is a lot of empathy and sympathy out there to what you are trying to do here. And I think there is, this region will role model the further discussion of where the renewables are coming from, and that the climate change and the CO2 are not the only glasses that we need to have on when we are talking about how to develop and where we want to go. So thanks for watching, and thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you, Michaela. Second guest that I will introduce is Igor Vejnović. Igor is originally from Belgrade, but he found his life goal in an organization called Bankwatch. It's a network, and he's mainly focused on public and private financing of the banks to hydropower inside of this organization. And I'm really glad that he's here so he can scare all of us with some data, with his studies that we, whoever deals with hydropower in Balkans, runs into his researches. So, Igor, what are the forecasts? What are scary data that we need to know before starting a huge fight again?
Yeah, thanks. Sorry? No, it's okay. I think people
really
here.
Can't. Sorry.
Yeah. Identity. I'm from Sarajevo, and then I grew up in Belgrade. Now in Czech Republic. Bankwatch, so which actually follows public money. So these are the banks which you may heard of: European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, the Reconstruction of Slavia, European Investment Bank. So these are the banks which hold there's countries. So it's a public money. And when we kind of realized that there is this issue, like this kind of 3,000 are planned in the Balkans, it was interesting behind it in terms of the finance. Who are the banks who are behind it? And especially what is the public money behind it? which was updated now in 2018, show that there is 700 million of euros from public banks, which was funneled in this sector, hydropower sector, from the 2005. It's 82 projects and 37 areas, and this thing for the built around 500 are small. So they are usually built in these, which are also very kind of valuable in terms of but there are also issues with access to water, irrigation, and it's not only an environmental problem. That's what I want to say. It's not only public money. There's, I think, one part of the problem is also private banks, which are actually finance larger number of projects. What we uncover, it's kind of very untransparent sector. It's around 158 projects, and again, 1/3 is in protected areas. There's also this mixed kind of where the public banks are investing in these projects through commercial banks, and this is where there's a lot of problems because of the transparency. But yeah, I mean, our kind of goal is now and we already managed a bit to raise awareness amongst the public banks about it. The petition, which was launched together with the movie, attracted 120,000 people. Now it's even more. I think it's close to 130,000, which was delivered to one of these public banks, European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. As a result, actually, we will have a meeting tomorrow. One of the results of this push, we will have a meeting here tomorrow in Belgrade between NGOs, people from the national authorities, and what is most important, banks. And this is like commercial banks, like the ones that you are using probably for your current accounts, like Unicredit, Erste, Societe Generale, these kind of banks. And this will be basically the first time that we are on the table and we are speaking. So this is going to happen tomorrow, and we are kind of hoping that this is going to be a start of kind of finding a way that the financial sector takes responsibility and tries to not to kind of finance some of these projects that you just seen, which are really, really harmful to the environment. So I'll stop here, and then I'm ready to also take any questions.
This was good so far. You were really short, thank you. So continuing with this, we just heard that there are some banks, some public banks, but also some private banks that are investing without any conscience to the consequences for the society and environment. Luckily, tonight with us is also Marcela. She landed from another continent to tell you the story about ethical banking and how it can be helpful for this kind of situations. And one of the things that I always like to point out is not only that we have the problem with environmental damage once we invest in a hydropower plant, but thing is that we're losing time and money of something that could be invested in real renewables. Marcela is she now works for a New Resource Bank. That's the name of the bank, and it's the biggest ethical bank. And they are cooperating with around 200 non-profits and foundations. Marcela.
Thank you very much. It's really not just good to be here. I'm home. It feels like I grew up in Belgrade. At least every summer I was here. So my name is Marcela Pečanac. I'm from Sarajevo originally. Also, I'm with Amalgamated Bank. We recently merged with New Resource Bank, and now have become, post-merger, the largest mission-aligned bank in the United States. So what that means is that the bank is committed to lending for economic well-being, environmental protection, and social equity, intergenerational social equity in our case. And we don't do much outside of that. We won't lend to fossil fuels or fracking or certainly not hydropower. So there is another way to go about finance, and it is also financially viable and sustainable. I'm also an activist. I'm on the board of Rainforest Action Network, a San Francisco-based nonprofit. We've been around for 30 years now, really challenging corporate power and taking on big banks to really and urge them to stop financing coal projects, pretty much following the money, because every time you follow the money, you end up banks, or now in recent years, increasingly private investment as well, are really the problem. The war industry, private prison complex, coal, of course, you name it. So we're trying to offer an alternative, and we're not alone. We're actually New Resource Bank, together with a Dutch bank, Triodos Bank, we have founded the Global Alliance for Banking on Values. So with 55 member banks and about 165 billion in assets and 15 million clients, you're really starting to see some real shifts and change the way banking works. Because money, what is money? It's just a current. It can be used for good or for evil in this case. So we need to do something about it. So this whole idea of where your money spends the night, you'll have bank accounts, it's sitting somewhere, and it's probably sitting at a bank funding one of these projects. So just being mindful about that, and also asking them as clients and consumers to stop financing destruction is really, really important. I also wanted to say that I'm still quite shaken up. This is the first time I've seen the movie, the full movie, which I'm really, I actually was in touch with women from Kruščica in December, Maida. She was crying in there, and she's tough. She is relentless. And I just want to report back and say that they won a major legal battle in December, just recently in Kruščica. So for now, the river's safe. And I'm also working on another case right now with local activists in Jablanica, in Herzegovina, the river Doljanka. And actually, that's not the bank financing in this case. It's a famous NBA star trying to just make more money. So I want to end on a hopeful note, because I think there's a lot of hope. I'm not sad. I'm actually really inspired by this, and I will. People are rising. There's no question about that. So yes, money-powered and centered banks are strong, and our governments are corrupt, and there's a lot of trouble out there. But also, when we work together in all these countries and help each other and work in solidarity, nothing can stop us, really. We have already stopped a number of dams. So we just need to keep at it. And now is the time, and there's a lot to protect. I think, Uli, you were talking about beauty. I don't know, it's man is kind of at war with himself right now, the last stage of self-destruction, destroying and trying to destroy that. So we need to rise, and we need to stop it and do everything we can. I know this room is already doing it, but let's do it together. Thanks for having me.
Tonight, there is also there are other news from Serbia that Chuta will talk about maybe a bit more. There are ongoing struggles for Topli Do in Topli Do, the village in Stara Planina. And one of the people outside of Serbia that are not born in former Yugoslavia or don't have this kind of personal, not even a personal connection, but has awareness about the importance of Balkan rivers and smaller streams. That's Ulich. I can't pronounce the Uli is tonight here, and he's formally, just to say, he was working for WWF Austria, and at one point he decided that he has to go further and founded River Watch. This is a society for protection of rivers, and I will ask him to talk about the broader context. So outside of the Serbia, what's happening with dams, what's happening with hydropower. Sometimes we hear there are really good examples of hydropower, like as a contra-argument for our fight against hydro, and then we hear some other news that dams are actually being brought down in many different places in Europe. Uli.
Yeah, thank you, Eva. Hi. Yeah, what can I say? You've seen these rivers, and I work on river protection actually all my professional life, mostly against hydropower plants. But what we are trying to communicate in this Blue Heart, and we know it in the campaign, that all the Balkan rivers are completely outstanding to other European rivers. And this is also mostly an important message to the funders, the financial organizations, or even to politicians, or even to the European community. When they speak about dams in the Balkans, they think about damming rivers in Germany, France, or Austria, but these rivers are different. They are so pristine that no other region can compare that. It's not comparable. It's completely without par, these rivers. It's like you would destroy cathedrals because you would have built shopping malls there to earn more money. So this is one of the things we try to achieve, to communicate internationally the value and the outstanding quality of these rivers. And the film, the Blue Heart film, is one of these puzzle stones that these tools that can reach out. The other thing is that to make you people in the Balkans aware of what you have. When we're in Albania, on the Vjosa, or wherever, or even in Serbia, people are not aware that this is what they have, or in Bosnia-Herzegovina, on Una, or Neretva, or Morača, Montenegro. They think it's just a river, but it's not. For them, it's also an option for future economical income. And this is again coming to the banks, and when we are tomorrow, it's also, even the bank people must understand that this is not normal business. This is something outstanding. The public overriding interest, this is a practical term that is used very often, is in favor of the rivers. And what we're trying to do that in the campaign to reach out, to communicate, we are assessing also a lot of data. We were the first ones who assessed the quality of the rivers. We were the first ones who assessed all these dams, and the map with these 3,000 dots was one of the products that raised a lot of attention, because even hydro freaks thought, hey, Jesus, that is too much. 3,000, are you crazy? Even the pro hydro ones. And we're continuously doing that. We finally, and just recently, piled we call it Eco Master Plan for the Balkan rivers. We assessed all the valuable river stretches that should be, according to law and to international European directives, no-go zones for hydropower plants. And we are the first ones, and we are trying not only to, let's say, shout, but also to provide data on which you can base your decision. My experience over 35 years now of dam fighting is you can win these things but you have to address a lot of levels. So money, the financial level, the legal part. We're financing lawyers also in different countries. But and you have to address the biodiversity and all of this. But what is absolutely necessary, and always was in the fights that we won, were civil disobedience, were people standing up. And here is what I think is Serbia is so special and made me very, positive and motivated again. When I saw these demonstrations just a couple of weeks ago, 5,000 people standing up against hydro. This was even in Austria. People got that and said, "Why are they doing this?" So this is something. And without you protesting, without kicking someone's ass as hard as you can, as I said there, the chances are limited. Even if you're legally on the right side, if you think you have all the legal aspects on your side, this is what is the social movement, what came from Stara Planina and from many other regions in Serbia, or from the people from Kruščica, the women from Kruščica. This is something that we need to support, and we try to support from our campaign. Only then, if we have all these puzzle stones, we create a picture where the success is very, very possible. Thanks.
Thank you, Uli. And as a person in this round of small speeches, I hope it will be small, but then again, I know this man very well in his speeches. Chuta is here, Aleksandar Jovanović. And Uli mentioned something about civil disobedience. Chuta is an activist, environmental activist from Temska. He was born there. He was growing up at the Topodolska River. He was involved in organizing many, many different protests. You can also see him from time to time somewhere in the media where they allow. Chuta, what's happening at the moment in Stara Planina, and what are the victories? Do we have some victory? Can we say that there is something that's going to happen that will stop this nonsense of hydropower soon?
Thank you very much, Iva. I apologize, I will speak on Serbian because my English is not so good. You will translate me, please. Dobro večer svima. Pre svega želim da vas obavestim da pričam sporije. Da bi Uli razumeo, mada bi trebao već do sad naučio srpski.
You should learn Serbian by now.
Na Staroj planini je proglašeno vanredno stanje. Odbanjima reke Stare planine stavilo svoje ljude u borbenu gotovost. Zašto? Zato što se ponovo priprema napad na Toplodolsku reku. I ne samo na Toplodolsku, pre svega reč je o njoj. Pojavio se još neka mesta na pojedinim rekama, na Knjaževačkoj strani Stare planine, pre svega mislim na Ravnobučansku reku, na Jansku reku. Ima tu još 6 lokacija koje su u pripremi da napadnu oni koji očigledno nemaju nameru da stanu. Kad je reč o Toplodolskoj reci, verovatno većina vas zna, to je aktuelno. Pojavio se predsjednik Nacionalnog saveza malih hidrocentrala, gospodin Josić, koji je do sada primećen na nekoliko mesta, pre svega mislim na Jošanicu, kao projektant, gde je projektovao onaj horor dole, što imamo svi priliku da gledamo u zadnjih ne znam koliko, 10 godina, od kada je to izgrađeno, Mauthausen za srpske reke. Sad se pojavio kao investitor sa idejom da nam gurne Toplodolsku reku u cel. Naime, reč je o Rakitskoj reci, to nije ona Rakitska reka koju smo branili poslednjih godinu i po dana gore kod Babušnice u Zvonačkom kraju, to je Rakitska reka, pritoka Toplodolske reke, koja se nalazi na 18 km iznad sela Temska, koje kao i većina naših reka izvire gore ispod Midžora. Šta će se gore desiti, ne smem ni da zamislim. Ono što se dešavalo u Rakiti je dečiji vrtić u odnosu na ono što se desiti u Temskoj. Ja ne govorim ovo na pamet. Temska je prvi put branila Toplodolsku reku 1992. godine, kada je, nakon što je izgrađena akumulacija Zavo i nestala Visočica i kada smo ostali bez svoje najmoćnije reke Visočice, izgradnjom tog monstruma od projekta i nestankom Visočice, ostali smo na Toplodolskoj reci. To je praktično jedina naša preostala reka. 1992. godine država bez ikakve najave krenula sa izgradnjom takozvanog Toplodolskog tunela sa idejom da i nju prevede u Zavojsko jezero i praktično nizvodno meštane sela Temska, koje je tad imalo 2000 stanovnika, sad ima 600, koje je drugo selo po veličini u Pirotskom okrugu, praktično ostavi na takozvanom biološkom minimumu, praktično bi ostali bez vode. Od najmoćnije reke Visočice dobili smo takozvani biološki minimum, to je po projektu 600 litara vode ispuštene sa dna jezera sa 50 metara dubine, 5 celzijusovih stepeni, nemogući nikakav oblik života. I onda su se pojavili jednog dana sa teškom mehanizacijom, sa idejom da kopaju taj Toplodolski tunel i da se ostavi bez naše jedine preostale reke. Tad se Temska prvi put digla na ustanak. Tu su bile barikade, tu su bile, kao što obično biva kad neko će da mu uzme vodu, krvave glave. Tu je bilo svega i svačega elementa za jedan dobar akcioni film. To je sve.
Can someone translate?
Maybe later.
If someone of you can translate a little bit, I mean,
Chuta was basically explaining a bit this new developments on Stara Planina, because I think we all thought that this is kind of a bit stopped at the moment, but now there are a few new places where the hydropower developers are trying to build projects. And especially this is, I guess, something like an upper reach of Toplodolska reka, like because Chuta is coming from Temska, which is a village on Toplodolska reka, but like on the confluence with what's the other river? I forgot. Visočica, yeah. So basically, on the, let's say, upper part, now there's again attack on Stara Planina, and what Chuta is also explaining on the example of Rakitska reka, which is on a different part, there was a lot of tension. There was like physical kind of
fight,
conflict between the people from the village and the investor and his security. He's now afraid that this will repeat all again, especially because the guy who appeared up there is kind of known as he already has a history of bad projects, including Jošanička Banja, which I went to, and it's like one of the worst things I ever seen, like 15 of dams on 30 kilometers of river. Anyway, he's also explaining this history because Temska is a village which was fighting already early 90s. It was not a small hydropower project, but this is this Zavojsko jezero, which is the big dam, which is on Stara Planina. And actually what they wanted to do is to divert Toplodolska reka to this lake, which basically then leaves this village, which was big before. It was 2,000 people. Now it's only 600. And if you already took one river, so this Visočica is already dammed, so you want to divert the another one into the lake, you will basically leave the village without the water. So this is the background where Chuta is coming from and why they were interested to now defend also the other rivers on Stara Planina.
Thank you very much, Igor.
Yeah.
Ok, da ja ne dužim puno. Da ja ne dužim puno sad sa istorijom, ima tu mnogo momenata, to je sve trajalo do 2007. godine, nekoliko puta su pokušavali i od 8 km tunela koji su planirali da probili su 2, jer im to nismo dozvolili. Onda se lokalna samouprava ipak odlučila da to prekine tako što je 2007. godine donela odluku o zabrani nastavka tog projekta i sve to tako trajalo do 2016. godine, novembra meseca, kad se kod gradonačelnika Vasića pojavio Aleksandar Antić, ministar energetike i rudarstva u vladi Republike Srbije, sa povampirinom idejom da nam ponovo gura posle 25 godina Topovsku reku u tunel. I tad je izjavio tu svoju čuvenu rečenicu, rekao da je to neviđenog energetskog interesa za našu stabilnost energetsku i što je sve izgovarao, na kraju izgovorio tu čuvenu rečenicu da narodu treba vratiti veru u tunel. Rade. Znači, ideja je da prvo nestanu ljudi. Namerno sam spomenuo demografiju Temske, pre 20 godina preko 2000 stanovnika, sada 600. Znači, oni su radili ozbiljno i, kažem, jedino se ozbiljno time bave na tome da prvo nestanu ljudi, a onda smo sad u sledećoj fazi čerupanje prirode po principu ko šta dohvati. Kad je on to izgovorio, onda smo se mi ponovo nekako, nama tu genima da branimo Topovsku reku, onda se desilo sve ovo što se desilo, da sad ja ne detaljišem puno, posle svog ludila i nastavka borbe za Visočicu na drugim mestima, za Rakitsku reku, za Rudinsku reku koju smo branili tako što smo je vraćali fizički, jer ovaj ludak zatrpao kamenjem jedan od investitora i svega što smo prošli za ove 2 godine, sad se ponovo pojavljuju ludaci. Pojavljaju se u Toplom Dolu da i saopštava narodu gore, to selima 20 stanovnika, da on ima dozvolu, njemu je Zorana Mihajlović naravno izdala dozvolu, da će on to graditi, pritom to nije jedina voda, ima još nekoliko tu mesta na Topovskoj reci, ima 18 lokacija koje su po prostornim planom predviđene za gradnju i šta sad? Došli smo dotle da ćemo se poubijati zbog toga. Ja sam vrlo ozbiljan kad to govorim, naši ljudi su u stanju pripravnosti.
Čuto?
Ja ću sada završim. Mi ćemo se obratiti, evo ne znam da li ovo neko slika, ja želim se obratim samo državnoj bezbednosti BI, ne znam ko je odgovoran za bezbednost. Ono što će se desiti u Temskoj, ukoliko bilo ko bude se pojavio s teškom mehanizacijom, mora da se spreči. U suprotnom ne odgovaramo za život bilo koga ko se pojavi gore sa bagerom sa idejom da nam Topovsku reku gura u cevi. Toliko, hvala.
Okay, so because Igor is already busy with translating to Uli, thank you very much for this. I will try, I'm really sorry, I will try to summarize the last few minutes. Basically, the showed up again. The Visočica River is not defended yet, and they are really in an emergency situation in Stara Planina, and they're pretty much ready to defend at all costs the nature and the rivers that are there. And he was also addressing to the security of this state. So they have in mind that once someone shows up with the machinery, there are no predicted consequences of what is going to happen to them if they come to Stara Planina. Thank you, Chuto. Maybe now we can have some questions from the audience, English or Serbian. Okay, thanks. I'm not trying here to be a... Sorry, just 1 second. You have microphone. Just to have a microphone for the recording.
Thank you all kind guests for coming here, for showing us this beautiful movie. It really boiled my blood. I really need to take the action, but I must ask this question. Serbia is currently one of the most polluted country actually in Europe by the emissions of the carbon dioxide. 3/4 of our electricity is produced by coal-powered generators. And I'm 100% against the mini dams, to be first to make the statement, against the mini dams, but you were talking against the whole hydropower. I just, as environmentalist, need to ask which one is more dangerous, the global warming produced by the emissions of the CO2 or the hydropower. Really, we need, for the sake of the truth, to find better options if we want to live with electricity. We just can't stop them all because we'll be back in the Stone Age or Middle Ages. And the second question is there any way I can buy this movie to show to more people around the country? Because I really think that thousands of Serbians are in need to see this and to be communicated this message. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Someone wants to answer coal. Okay. Marcela?
No, I just thank you for that question. I actually hear that a lot, even today with the meeting with EBRD. They kept saying hydropower is great, and they actually use hydropower as an excuse to exit coal. What people don't know is that hydropower, under the guise of clean energy, really takes away from real clean energy projects, such as solar in the first place, but also other things that cause problems in our region, which is, waste management. It can be done a different way. So hydropower also not only destroys local communities and is a bad excuse again, it also produces large emissions of methane. So it is not, in terms of global warming risks and climate change mitigation, it is actually not good. And it also destroys the ecosystem around, causes deforestation, which is really, really bad. We need to keep our forests intact, and not to even mention that biodiversity. So I think that's a great question. I think it's important to also offer an alternative and say, okay, if not coal and if not hydropower, what else? And my question or answer is, well, why not solar? Why not do what the rest of the world is doing?
Can I add something?
Fully, yes.
Yeah, we assessed exactly that question when we did. I told you about the eco master plan with these no-go zones for hydro. So we asked a specialist the question: how can these countries, if they cannot build these dams, how can they, reach the goals for the renewable targets? And for Serbia, if you would dam everything, you would not even reach the EU targets for renewable energy. The biggest potential in Serbia is solar and wind from the renewables. But let me tell you one more thing. Serbia, as well as all the other countries, are connected to the European electricity grid. So the German wind electricity is coming also to Serbia. So when you're thinking about Serbia as a box, that you're already wrong. You have a huge other potential, which is saving energy. You have a huge amount of energy losses. And what you're doing is like you're sitting in a bathtub. If you've opened the hole and you increase the amount of water that's coming in, but you should, block the outflow. In the end, all these dams, we have evidence of about 870 hydropower projects in this country. More than 90 of them are small-scale hydropower plants, and even the EU in the latest messages said that these dams should not be built. No more small-scale, that's the word, small-scale hydropower plants should be built. In a meeting last week in Podgorica, where Antic, the energy minister from Serbia, took place, They lobbied this sentence out of a final statement. There were these 6 country representatives present that are non-EU in the Balkans, so Kosovo, Albania, Bosnia, Macedonia, Montenegro, and Serbia. And there was a statement prepared that they should not not invest in small-scale hydropower plants. They should not build it. But Serbia, with Bosnia and Macedonia, lobbied it out again. But so there's this. Your question is a normal question, but it's already you have something in the mindset that is a question. Actually, the wrong question for me. The right question would be, how could we save our rivers and go into a modern future? We are not in the 1960s anymore. That is what annoys me the most. When we are fighting dams in Western Europe, it was in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. There was no alternatives. In the 80s, there was literally no solar, and actually almost no wind in the 80s. Now the world has changed. We've destroyed all the rivers in the rest of Europe, and the Balkans are like an oasis. And the technical means have completely changed. But what is happening here now is even worse than it happened in Austria and Germany in the 70s and the 80s. So you build dams in the national parks and protected areas, and even according to our studies in the whole Balkans, about 50 fish species would go extinct if these 3,000, these dams would be built. That equals 10% of all European fish species that live in rivers. So it's an enormous value, and for me, it's no balance there. So you could invest in alternative. You should save the energy, and think that you're connected. You're connected somehow. You want to join the EU? You're already connected to the grid already.
Okay, Michaela, there was a question about the movie. Maybe you can shortly.
Yes, we'll be happy to share it. You can get it. Look for me afterwards.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you. I actually do not have a question. I have really translated the film in Bulgarian for the screening in Sofia, but I would like to add something very important as an answer to your question, which we will discuss tomorrow with the EBRD. You're asking coal or hydropower on the Balkans. Let's say in Sahara Desert, does someone talk about hydropower? Obviously not. So now the situation in this region is that we have low mountains. We do not have, for example, the Alps. We have low mountains, and everyone here knows pretty well that we have water running in our rivers only during springtime. Is that correct? Yeah, it is. So our region is famous with the great river runoff irregularity. We have water running in those rivers only during springtime. On the other hand, we have to comply with the requirements of the Water Framework Directive, one way or another. You will one day become a EU member state, and you have to achieve the objectives of the Water Framework Directive, which means that at 2027, all the surface water bodies should reach good ecological status. That's the other point. And the third point is that each of the small hydropower plants and the big plants should release the so-called e-flow, ecological flow. You can call it in Serbia, biološki minimum. So we are coming, let's say, in the summer or in the winter or during the autumn. If all those small hydropower plants are to discharge that, I will call it from now on residual flow, not ecological, because it has nothing to do with ecology. It is residual flow. So unless, besides from springtime, the rest of the year, if they are to follow the requirements for the ecological flow, they should not be working at all, because we have no water running in our rivers then. So the next thing to add to this picture is that during springtime, actually, we don't need electricity. Why? Because we are not cooling anything and we are not heating anything. We need much more and more electricity during the winter and in the summer for cooling or for heating. Is that correct? It is. So then we come to the next problem. In the Balkan region, I'm not talking about the Alps. Don't take me wrong. So in the Balkans, we are producing from hydropower. If we are to follow all the requirements, ecological and so on, we have to produce hydropower only during springtime, when we don't need it. We will pay those high feed-in tariffs. If you get me, you will one day receive invoices twice the price you're paying now, and I will see those. There will be not 500, there will be 1,500 people then, because in Bulgaria it just so happened. 2013, we received those invoices and the government had to resign. That's the next thing. But I'm coming back to the overall picture. We are producing electricity, extra electricity, which we are paying double, triple, 4 times the price of the other sources, and we have nothing to do with it. Actually, in order for the system not to break down, we have to waste it. That's what we are doing in the Balkans. And I'm not pretty sure that you in Serbia have enough, for example, pump storage or any other kind of storage systems that will deal with that extra electricity. So I think this should have been added as an answer to your question. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I would just like so you can present. Okay.
He was almost done.
Okay. Okay. You probably should stay longer and discuss with you had a very inspiring question. I would just ask you to present yourselves when you're asking questions or giving answers as well. Thank you.
We have much more experience than we do in Serbia.
Thank you. Okay. There is very small. Okay, there. I see one hand there over there. It's Zvezdan. Okay, a few more. Do you maybe want to collect a few questions because because of the time?
Zahvaljujem. Moje ime je Zvezdan Kalmar, ja dolazim iz Centra za ekologiju i održivi razvoj i to je organizacija koja je i član Benkoč mreže. Molim?
Možeš na engleskom, molim.
Dobro, okay. So I would like to add few more points on the previous question about the energy mix. I'm in my professional engagement, I'm actually working in energy sector, and by the chance I just came from the mining basins today. I was meeting with the mining inspectors here in Serbia because there is a growing problem of coal mining, which is actually growing, and the electricity company of Serbia is planning to dig at least 1.5 to 2 billion tons of coal until at least 2060, 2070. Previous question was not formulated well, and the answer also didn't actually target it well, because no one is actually speaking about either coal or hydro. That's not correctly pointed question. Hydro energy cannot actually fulfill all the electricity needs. Hydro energy, and we are actually here mixing different forms of hydro energy. So small hydropower plants, and everyone who is analyzing the system and all the potential projects knows that all the small hydropower plants, if they will be built, will not cover not more than 3% of domestic needs of Serbia. So we are at all not in need for the small hydropower plant. However, for the future for the future functioning of the system and for the storage of the energy. You just mentioned the solars. In our analysis, we have developed since 2012 to 2016, we actually learned that there is big potential for the solar and wind in our region. However, you need to facilitate that energy. This is intermittent energy, so this energy is not always available, so you need somehow to store it. And please don't forget that the electricity is just the part of the energy system. What about the pollution in cities, which is coming from the heating and from the transport? All of that is, or most of that is coming from the burning of the coal, wood, and hydrocarbons. Our transport is actually consuming about half of energy in Serbia. So don't forget that we need to tackle problem of consumption and transfer or transit of the transport system from the fuels, from the hydrocarbons to what? To electricity. And who will supply and how will supply that electricity? So we are against coal, we are against nuclear, we are against gas, we are against utilization of biomass, and we are against hydro energy. Please tell me what miraculous form of energy you think that we will need to use, and where is in the plans? Which country in Europe or in the world is planning to go out from the coal, from the nuclear, from the gas, from the biomass, and from the hydro? So I completely agree with you that network energy is a solution for the future. However, there are also very serious and very benevolent experts in this region who are in favor of solar, like me, who are in favor of wind, like me, but we need to be absolutely realistic that not to make our region zoo. You know, when I was looking this movie, I saw protected areas, that's okay. But you know that more than half the population of Serbia and other countries is actually centralized in the cities. So how we will provide that energy, and this number will even grow. And don't forget that people are actually going out from the Serbia in significant numbers. So all these things should be taken into consideration when you are planning long-term energy system as a response to all these problems.
Thank you, Zvezdane. I think they got the question right. Maybe one more question with this one, and then we can come back to this. While the microphone comes, I will just remind over there. It's upstairs. I'll just remind, Uli was mentioning this data that we're losing so much on the network and distribution. In Serbia, it's 15% of the energy that's produced that's lost somewhere in this bathtub spill.
Hello, so my name is Milja Vukovic. I'm a citizen of Belgrade, Serbia, Balkan, Europe, this planet. Zvezdan just said something and it was mentioned here, and I think somehow we all feel it, that maybe we do not have the answer at the moment. That even solar power and wind do not give the complete answer. But I daily wonder, and I somehow would like to ask you to wonder that more, to ask that question and demand that from yourself. Is maybe the problem in our needs? Is maybe the problem in the fact that we have all these lights? These are our rivers now spilling everywhere, and even this microphone and everything. I'm not suggesting that we return to the Ice Age, as someone mentioned, but maybe also the banks and the evil people are not the problem. Maybe big and important part to emphasize the word radically, because this 2060, 2070, that really sounds like science fiction to me. That's 20, I'm almost 40 now, but I lived in Serbia in all these years. I'm an art historian, so I'm a historian. The fact that we have 40 years in which we as inhabitants and co-inhabitants this planet have lost, and then point fingers at banks are evil. Then is coal the answer, or is solar power the answer? Can I use less? Can I use what's really necessary and gives me a beautiful life that I'm really thankful for already?
Thank
so
you.
that.
Thank you
Thank you all.
for the inspiration. Maybe we can have some answer and then another round. There were a few questions over there previously, and then can you just raise your hand beforehand so I can see you? Okay, and there was okay. Any answer?
Yeah, I wanted actually to say something because Bankwatch is working campaigning against coal and against this kind of hydropower development. So I kind of felt that there needs to be, this is not, then I need to say something. This is not an easy, so, easy question, of course, and we are kind of encountering a lot. But there are really some, you can also look at it from the different perspectives. So currently, okay, Serbia is dependent on coal. This needs to be reduced. We need to also power down some of those coal power plants. But, our renewable energy mix is currently dominated by hydro. I don't know, maybe there's now a few percent, which is now with wind it's coming up. So there is a bit more diversity, but it's almost, I haven't checked the percentages, but this is like 95, 96% is hydro. Is this rational to have like coal and hydro and that's it? I don't think so. There needs to be more diversity, and that specifically, we mentioned also climate change, right? This is the reason why we are powering down coal power plants. Well, this climate change is not, even if we are now starting to address it, is not going away. It's going to affect, and it's going to affect Balkans severely. And how is it going to affect it? It's not going to affect it by, on the coast and stuff like that, but it's going to be less rainfall. So if you are starting to plan your future where you already know that there's going to be quite a lot of climate impact, and you are basing it on the source, which is very vulnerable to it, like, Albania was last year when there was a drought, they were importing 80% of their electricity. Is this how, it's not so simple. Coal, hydro, there needs to be really a planning. There's another thing, we have a lot of hydro already built. If you want to get this balancing of the net, so you have to put more, if you put more solar, you put more wind, exactly, you have more intermittency, that's how it's called. But you already have a lot of hydro. And you have it heavily in Albania, for instance. It doesn't need to be in all countries that they need to develop in the same way. Uli mentioned that we in the Balkans should think also, how we are interconnected. You shouldn't be closed in our own national borders. We need to think how this interconnection can work so that we get the most efficient and most viable electricity system for all of us, not just from Serbia, not just from Montenegro, not just from Bosnia. So I think we cannot provide the answer. These are the real questions, but it's also not so simple. So, okay, we have to, we should just go for hydro. We should go for a mix, and we should make sure that we to understand that we already have a lot of hydro. If you look at the plans of the states, if you go to their scenarios, they want 4 gigawatts of new hydropower plants. That's not possible to build. If you're following some rules, you can build it and then you're left with nothing. Yeah, we can actually flood. You know how the Tamnava mine was flooded with water.
Sorry.
Maybe that's a solution to combine hydro and coal, but that's whole another fantasy of mine, I guess. But yeah.
But I actually like your approach, and I discovered that a lot. We actually don't have an answer, and I think no one has, how we can really save, or we get to this future. This is based on renewables, and have also a life where we have nature left or something. I was born and raised in Germany, and we have this famous Energiewende. Our government decided to get out of coal in the next 30, 35 years. But what they're always doing is they're taking the fruits up in the future. And the reality at the moment is that most of people have no idea how to get there. And so I think we don't have this answer, but we certainly know that hydro is not an answer. Hydro is, as you mentioned, already built to an enormous amount. And there's the potential which is already there wouldn't solve any problem. What it would do, it would destroy the rivers, but it wouldn't solve a problem. It would create more problems. And in the end, it's a question to you. There's always, sometimes I'm fed up with this discussion, to be honest, because it's always, something is so complicated, and then you say, oof. But in the end, it comes all together and say, in which world do you want to live? You want to live in a world where there's nature left and where rivers are flowing? Or you want to live in a world that is completely technicalized, everything is fucked up and you. So it's a little bit about the sense in your life, I think. There was something completely different, but in the Nazi area, a lot of people died in the concentration camps. And after the World War, there were a lot of assessments why certain people survived while others didn't. And it may be a jump, but the answer to that was the people who survived had significantly more sense in their survival, in their life. And so for me, that's my thing. My sense here is, you should be fighting for your rivers. And this is not about data always, but it's a question in which world in the future you want to live. In something that you like. It's about love and beauty in the end, and not about data, I think, and pro and cons.
Thank you, Uli. We have many questions and not so much time. There is a concept called degrowth that is addressing exactly this kind of spending. It's Ivane, and then there was someone. Okay, yes. Ivan first.
Thank you all. I'm Ivan Rajkovic. I'm a social anthropologist. I just wanted to follow up on the question of wind and solar, because I think even though technicalities are really important here, having in mind that this is a sustainability issue, they do have a tendency to depoliticize the debate. And especially wind and solar being, less used in the higher power and more clean, obviously, we tend to think that they're more benevolent. But we do know that they're a kind of new frontier for various kind of very similar processes in Mexico, where you have the biggest wind parks done in the name of, cleaning the energy resources of the country and also democratizing it. You didn't have that. You only had cheap electricity being sold to Coca-Cola and big companies. The villagers who gave the land for the wind parks were actually dispossessed of their livelihoods, such as hunting shrimps and so on. You have the similar situation in Catalonia, where the villagers were protesting in very similar way to start a planning of villages against wind power, and also with solar in Greece, where you have multinational capital, doing things in crypto. So it's not to say that wind and solar are bad, but it's to say that the energy, that even the cleanest energy is not absolved from various kinds of political, economic problems you might have. It's a question not just of energy, not just of technology, but also of politics around it. So I wanted to say this because we tend to think that, this is a certain kind of Balkan, cowboyish, backwater situation in comparison to some cleaner alternatives. No, this is actually a much more brutish, but actually very transparent thing that is going on a more global level, which is that you have capital and you have state encroaching to the new level and the new frontier, which is green energy, and dispossessing people in new ways in the name of climate change, which is not to say that, And just the second question, I do think that networking and generalizing the fight is important here, but I think there is also a very strong division here between the very localist approaches. What I was really pleased to see with the Staroplanian and with the river protest all across the Balkans, and this is why I think they were so salient and so resonating, is that they were addressing specific rivers. And, you know, not only the rivers, but also, you know, from the wolves to the fishermen, we had really a myriad of organizations in the last protest. And this is because they're really mobilizing specific people around specific sites and specific sources of livelihood. And yet, when you scale up, some of that is lost. So I'm just wondering how to mobilize and not to lose that specificity of, you know, how it means, what it means to live in Temska in comparison to the region.
Okay, maybe you can continue, and then we go to the other side.
Good evening. My name is Alex. I work 6 years for the Ministry of this. I used to work in another department, but what I can say to you, and what Mr. Jovanovic can also confirm, if you expect any help from the ministry itself, don't expect it. Don't expect it, since they are, as far as I was there 3 years ago, I doubt that anything changed, because the system is constructing that way that is really not protecting the common people. It's brute, it's relied on force, it's deeply corrupted and deeply incompetent. How to fight in this kind of with this kind of a system that presses you on one side? Your own government is pressing you on one side. The other side is EBRD and all the bashing that on one side, when the cameras are off, are saying yes, you are right, you are fine, everything is okay. But with cameras are on, everybody is shaking hands with each other, and everything is okay. So you are pressed on one side, you are pressed on the other side, you are living in a country that is not respecting any individual rights, and now you need to defend your river like they are doing. How? That's my question.
Thank you. Then we have another one. Sorry, we will not have time for all, but there will be space for informal. There was, I think the lady was first.
Which one?
I think she was first.
Should we like try to answer?
Bob. Right. Yeah, you with less. And then, but we really need to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
My name is Jacques. I'm just going to say there's a current about how much energy we should be using and what the answer is and things like this. I would advise people to read somebody like Herman Daly, Ecological Economics Beyond Growth. There's a elephant in the room. There's a problem that it's not just about what we're going to use as citizens, but it's also what industry is doing. That's like what nobody's talking about. And they keep making all of this stuff that we don't really need, and they also make it so that it breaks. It's called planned obsolescence. They make things that break on purpose. They get engineers to build things that will definitely break in a year or 2 years, so that you have to keep on buying over and over and over. This is a tremendous waste of energy, not just us using lights at home. And all of the statistics that I've seen say that it's not, we're sitting here beating each other up like, oh, we have too many lights on. This is a problem, yes, and we have to think about this. But what about the factories? What about the farms? What about like all of these places, especially the ones making stuff we don't really need in society? So that's all I really wanted to bring up.
Okay, short one, and then you will have some reflection on all of this, hopefully. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, my name is Dragan. I'm forest engineer. I just want to ask, since given that you are specialists in what you do, like your expertise, and you have really great experience, do you have any suggestions? What would be the in legal terms, what would be the fight in legal terms here? Do you have some suggestions where to lobby, how to, go with all those problems, with the system, with all those, let's say, criminal, like this gentleman from Sarapanina said. So in short, that would be, I mean, you also know for some good examples from other countries that you already experienced. So any maybe suggestions how to fight in legal terms all these problems that we have in Serbia and of course in all Balkan.
Thank you. Floor is yours. Whether you want to start.
I want to say something. I feel like that the campaign, the film, the topics, sometimes they also let us feel very stuck in a system where we feel very powerless, that it's not going to change, that it's too complex. But we are living in the midst of the big energy transition, and it's going to happen. And I'm 45, and when I was born in Slovenia, we thought that this will be the only man that we will always look up to, and that this will be the only system that we will live in. And that was in 74, and it's changed. And I come from a coal mine city where they also have still scary plans that they will only close the coal mine in 2059. And this is not going to happen. It will happen way before. So yes, there are no answers, all answers out there, but the systems do change, and they change because people start asking these kind of questions.
Okay. Larsa?
Yeah, I want to add to that. An EBRD official or banker, I don't know how to call them both, I guess, he said today, we will keep investing in hydropower. We won't stop. At least the first time was the strongest. And I didn't say anything because it was very official and you had to it was extremely formal, the whole meeting. But I thought to myself, you will, maybe you don't see it, but social movement is underway. People are out in the streets. And one thing that banks fear is reputation. So the same thing in the States, they always used to say, no, we won't stop. And then people were out in the streets or nonprofits, and they would camp out in front of the headquarters, and they don't like to see their name in the news. I think the lady over there, she made a point, very deep point earlier. These are kind of different issues, but it's all the problem and the root cause is the same actually. What needs to happen really is we need to change the way we live on the planet. There's no other way. Whether it's hydropower, or the use of plastic, or whatever, or overconsumption, it's our system that has brought us here. And believe me, it's not just here. I was just with Mexican activists a week ago. They're being killed literally, and they're not giving up. South African activists on Monday in New York too. So what you can do, you pick a fight. And I think what is happening here, we have a great opportunity with river protection, because, we have been through a lot in this region. But this is our last kind of, source of wealth in a way that I like to think of it, our water. I mean, I live in California, we have drought. We will be without water in no time. Two things I just want to say, because I think this is just the whole world is facing this issue. There was a report in October 2018, ICPP, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which says the Paris Agreement, forget about that. We actually cannot go above 1.5 Celsius. We cannot, because the scientists are in agreement on this. That's when we lose coral reefs, that's when we lose Arctic ice, and pretty much we don't know what happens then. Nobody knows what happens then. So we have up until 2030, which is 11 more years, to reduce green gas emissions by 40%. So it's not just Bosnia or Serbia, it's Australia, which is still producing coal like crazy, and all these other countries around the world. But we have to do what we can do today. And the kids also, I don't know if you've seen that kid from Sweden talk, and it's just incredible. Greta, right? What is
yeah,
her?
but there are protests now every week or
Kids,
so.
there's a big protest where kids are actually going to be out in the streets on March 15th in major European cities. So, you know, pick one fight. And I just want to say, I haven't had a chance to do that publicly. Thank you, Patagonia, really, for coming all the way from the States to awaken us here. I think that's pretty amazing. So thank you for all that you have done and keep on doing.
Okay, someone else from the panel wants to conclude?
I can only add one more thing. It's that we from the campaign are ready to support whatever is needed also in Serbia. I believe in a connection of local initiatives and you know, national and international organizations. Then we are the strongest. So you have to play all the cards to win a game. And it's not like you ask, there is not one silver bullet that wins the match. And so that's our offer, and that's what we are trying to help to even also smell what is the position, where could we add something? Maybe it's the EU accession process that could help a little bit, maybe it's other things. So it's just an offer. I don't have all the answers, more question than anything.
Thank you very much for speaking up for the environment who doesn't have its own voice apart from us here tonight. Thank you for staying till the end. Speaking of the actions and the protests that has to happen and has to be some kind of basis for any further political work, follow Odbranimo reke Stare planine on Facebook. That's a group, that's the main communication channel for defenders of Stara Planina rivers and broader than Stara Planina. On 22nd of March, Right to Water Initiative will have their day of action because that's the World Water Day. So follow that as well. And join us for the cocktail there in the cafe for a very brief time. Thank you very much. Anyone who wants to have a bulletin from Right to Water Initiative can come and have it. Thank you and good night.